We have just gotten word today that Manaea is opting out of his contract with the New York Mets. We are going to talk about how much money he left out on the table, what he's going to be worth in the open market, and a prediction on where he could be signing. Plus, free agency is getting closer and closer, and the chances are growing and growing that Pete Alonso is going to be re-signing with the New York Mets, and I'm going to explain a couple reasons why. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to this nice yellow evening edition of Mets Digest with your host, Michael DeAngelo, as you see on the screen. Hope everyone is locked into the offseason now. It's going to be a wild ride, so make sure you guys subscribe right here. We're a little over, close to 2.3K subscribers, so I really want to get over to that point pretty much by the end of whenever this video is uploaded. So make sure you guys subscribe here. Shout out to Flobo Boy's been killing it with the views lately. And we will be right here grinding for you guys as always. Before I get started, I want everyone, or here, that's wrong. Whoops. I want everyone to go join my giveaway on my new Twitter. I'm giving away a signed cards by Tyler McGill and Brandon Nimmo. And my at is Michael _Delo. Michael, as you see spelled right there, _DLO. I have a giveaway. All you have to do is follow me, repost it, and you'll be entered in. And hopefully I'll select a winner soon whenever this video is out. I expect all 2.3K of you to go and enter in on that giveaway, all right? So without further ado, I will get started. And Manaea, like I said before, is opting out of his contract. His player option for next season was around $13.5 million. Now, his annual projected salary for this upcoming contract that he will probably be receiving will be around is averaged to be around 14.5, or at least predicted to be. And you can say what you want about Sean and what he should be paid and what he shouldn't be, but he gave it all for the Mets this year. As you can see, I mean, look, the 3.47 ERA and the 21 home runs allowed, it doesn't really put, when you look at his stats on paper, it doesn't really put into perspective of what he's done for this team, especially during that playoffs. Now, at age 32, obviously his career is definitely coming closer to the end than it is the beginning. But I mean, you can pretty much suggest that it is going to be around a 3 to 4 year contract for Mr. Manaea, and it will be the biggest one he's received in his entire career. Look, this guy's battled through it all. Struggles when he was with San Francisco and San Diego, moving up from the starting rotation to the bullpen, back to the rotation. It almost seemed like his career was done. And, the fact that, the Mets kind of signed him as more of like a deadline flip piece, maybe get some prospects out of him at the trade deadline, and what he ended up turning into pretty much the ace of our pitching staff, because Mr. Kodai Senga was pretty much out the whole entire year. And that caused Manaea to just go on this rampage of just being pretty much the best starter on our team, obviously with the other lefties, Jose Quintana and David Peterson. They all got to feed off of each other and really do some damage top to bottom in our pitching staff for the Mets. But that's what I'm saying, that he is due around $14.5 million. If you look at other pitchers compared that signed a contract at 32 years old, you can see there Marcus Stroman at $18.5 million. Marcus Stroman, another Boris client as well. Same with Manaea too. So, it just depends on how much are the Mets willing to pay. Are they really willing to open up their wallets for a 32-year-old starter that is definitely going to start going on to the decline of his career? There's younger free agents out there, especially left-handers like that we've talked about in the past, that Flobo's talked about in the past. Of course, Max Fried and Corbin Burns obviously being the big headliner for us. Those are two guys that the Mets may rather be willing to spend money on for their rotation. Roki Sasaki as well, coming over from Japan. Those are three guys that the Mets would maybe rather spend money on, as well as try to keep Pete Alonso around. The big trend nowadays in the major leagues is youth, and youth is pretty much dominating right now. Pulling up prospects early and getting the most out of them. There's not a lot of room on this team, especially for more 32, 33-year-old veterans that are on the decline of their career. The Mets are trying to get away from that a little bit. We saw, then pull up Luis Angel Acuna, and you got guys coming up this year like Brandon Sproat. And Spot Track right now puts his market value at around 2 years for $29 million. And if I know a lot of other executives and writers around the league are projecting maybe around a 3 year, $68 million deal. That's what Sporting News, projected the Kansas City Royals to actually sign Sean Manaea for that amount of money. Now, that's what I want to get into next of the rumors that Sean Manaea is probably going to be leaving. And there will be a team out there that is definitely willing to pay the price for him. And could it be the Kansas City Royals? I mean, Michael Wacha, Michael Lorenzen are two guys that are pretty much going to be out of their rotation into free agency. So now they have two open spots left in that rotation. Of course, they have the super young, talented Cole Reagans with them, who could definitely learn a thing or two and pick the brains of Sean Manaea, who's a fellow lefty. It would be a great match for Reagans and Manaea to be together. Of course, Seth Lugo probably still in the mix for Kansas City as he was an all-star this year. With the Royals having a pretty young lineup, they could go more veterans with their pitching staff, as you see already with what they have. Now, along with the prediction of Sean Manaea leaving the Mets to go to the Kansas City Royals, Sporting News also predicted that Pete Alonso would officially re-sign with the New York Mets this offseason, and we all kind of here hoping for it now. I mean, this guy has pled his case constantly about how much he wants to be a part of this team, that he's willing to do anything for it. If the money is not too far off, we could easily see an agreement being reached between the Mets and Pete Alonso. Now, the reason why we would say that he would most likely be re-signing is that the Mets need to focus a lot of their money on the pitching staff. And like I said before, Max Fried, Corbin Burns, those are guys are free agents that you could sign to 5 and 6 year contracts for, a little over $100 million. That's not going to break the bank. If you end up signing all three, Burns, Fried, and Pete Alonso, it's going to cost a little more, around $500 million. Now, obviously, that's something that's really not out of the reach for the New York Mets, which is really crazy to think of. But here we are now with the richest owner in sports, and his pockets are going to be flying everywhere this offseason. Now, besides the starters, I will say the bullpen as well is another big need. Now, if you look at the bullpen free agency class, it is still pretty stacked. AJ Minter, Carlos Estevez, Aroldis Chapman, Martin Perez. Mets desperately need lefties in there. Yimi Garcia, Luke Jackson, the list goes on and on of all the available relievers in free agency. It's actually a pretty stacked class this year, and I think the Mets should be taking full advantage of it this year. Now, the only reason, with all these reasons added up and as to why that I think that Alonso would end up re-signing, on the other hand of him not re-signing with this team, I would predict that to be because of Juan Soto being landed here in Queens with the Mets. And if that were the case, we obviously know the contract is going to reach a little over $600, maybe possibly to $700 million for this 25-year-old free agent. The point being is, after making a signing like that, your pockets do come pretty thin pretty quickly. And, first base would be a pretty easy fix right now for the New York Mets. You could just move Mark Vientos over to first base, and a replacement of Pete Alonso at first base with maybe a guy like Christian Walker as well. If you weren't comfortable with Vientos moving over to first base, is a pretty easy task to complete, to say the least. But right now, we are just all speculating. It is all predictions, and my prediction is that the Mets will keep Pete Alonso and more spread around the money to the pitching staff. As we know, David Stearns loves his deep pitching staffs. We saw with the Brewers when he was president of baseball ops there, always had a great pitching staff on hand between Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Devin Williams, Freddie Peralta. He always made sure to keep his guys around, and I'm pretty sure David Stearns is going to want to establish this offseason who his guys are going to be in that pitching staff. He already has Edwin Diaz locked up on a big-time contract. He doesn't really have any starting pitchers, especially that are, ace caliber, that he has locked up for the long term. And so with that being said, Corbin Burns, former Brewer, former, player for David Stearns, the connection is there. And we'll see what David Stearns can pull off this offseason. But that is all I have for you guys here with Mets Digest. Like I said before, make sure you guys subscribe here for all things Mets offseason content. I'm sure Flobo Boys will be back here in the next video as well. And I will see you guys whenever I see you. Make sure you guys join my giveaway on Twitter, all right? It's a signed card by McGill and Nimmo for you guys. No cost, nothing. It's a little gift that I have for you guys that we reached over 2,000 subscribers. So that is all I have for you here, and I'll see you guys when I see y'all. Goodbye, y'all. Let's go, Mets.